time. And one of the participants in Way of Impeccability has this quote, or just mentioned it, said, well, timing is always on time. Like, duh. That's too fantastic. It just stuck with me. I just thought this is just too brilliant and too awesome. But I was saying, though, for me personally, I made an effort a long time ago, and this is under the heading of appropriateness and moreness, to make time elastic. And in this, I mean that all right, for instance, if you were to say, how long is a second? Well, a second's very quick. I say, well, hold your hand in the flame and you'll see how long a second is. So this always stuck with me. And then I also thought, in hyper situations where you are super attentive, hyper emphasized, like, an accident or something dramatic or whatever, then time can elongate or compress either way. And I said, wow, what about developing the ability to do this more deliberately, right? And I really liked this idea. This was a great concept for me. So I find that I don't necessarily elongate time sometimes, but the reverse happens for me all the time. And I did this on purpose to avoid the tediousness and boredom and stuff like that, and grind. In other words, when I'm doing stuff that I get involved in, let's say I'm busy writing, I'm creating a course, whatever it is, then as I get immersed, time goes away, and suddenly I look around and say, wow, I feel like I've been working for 5 or 10 minutes, 15 minutes, but the whole morning's gone or the whole day's gone. And this I love. I absolutely love this. This is a very profound skill. And it just takes a little bit of focus, a bit of intent to do this, and to set that specifically the intent, not to monitor time. Because when we monitor time, of course, then you drag it out and you stretch it, and then you make things tedious, you make it a drag, you make it tiresome. So I love this. And when I get involved like that, time disappears. And it really just, I don't know if it elongates or compresses. I can't decide which one, but it's very exciting to look around and you say, wow, to me, it feels like 5 or 10 minutes, but it's been hours. It's very cool. Very, very cool.
Yeah, I think I like it both ways. What I've been doing with myself, because I'm always restricted by time because I have school runs in the morning and collections in the evening, and I'm often doing dinner, is I try not to think about time when I'm creating. And suddenly I can find out that I've done a lot in 20 minutes, even like what I would have done in an hour in 20 minutes. And I'm like, wow. And the less I restrict myself and think about the time, the more I can do. And then on the good days when I'm not got all that responsibility, I tend to just go with the flow. And yeah, I love losing hours when I'm really focused. I like the balance of the two for sure. For me, music is something where I get lost. Music and writing, actually.
Yes, it's most exciting. It's
Okay.
most exciting. Just by way of introduction, I'm sure those of you who don't know me, you've probably already gathered that I do life coaching, and I do it via programs and courses, and very, very extensively. My programs tend to be, or not tend to be, almost all of them are, especially the main programs, are very cohesive, and they are longer term programs, because these are profound, life-changing self-change programs. So like Way of Impeccability, which is my main core program, from which everything else is, comes afterwards. That's, you need that as a foundation. It's a minimum 4-month program. Typically takes longer, but 4 months minimum. Because if you truly, truly want to change, you need some time to assimilate all of these new changes. Because you're looking to change a lifetime of habits, a lifetime's way of thinking and believing and behaving. So it takes some time. And I think this is why so many struggle with life change, because they want to do it, over a weekend or a couple of weeks or whatever. And that's not really feasible.
Yeah.
It can profoundly change, fairly quickly. It can happen, but it all depends on how that comes about. You can get lucky, and one thing can trigger a cascade, and you can change. So, somebody did happen. Just to give an example of, you can have it, but again, you can have a profound change, but that doesn't mean that you're necessarily going to have all the tools to enact that. I said to somebody that I had gotten to know them somewhat, and then they became a participant of Wave Effect. I said, all your problems don't come from your lessness, in my opinion. Very careful to say, in my opinion, because it always is my opinion. I want to state it as a fact. Anyway, I said, but I feel your problems come from your moreness. This really set them back. They're like, what are you talking about? My problems come from my moreness. It doesn't make any sense. I said, think about it. Your moreness in terms of how much you care, how much you are concerned about things, how much you want to give, and how generous you are, how caring you are. That's all moreness. It's not lessness. This gets you into trouble all the time because you don't know how to deal with it, and you feel like you're being arrogant or egotistical or whatever, or you feel like you're over emphasizing yourself, promoting yourself, and you were taught not to do this, etc., etc. And they're like, wow. When they clicked what I was saying, it was a little bit more to it, but when they really clicked what I was saying, it's changed completely. The whole life turned about. But then, of course, now you feel empowered, but do you have the tools to do that? If you're in the habit of always, talking yourself down, saying, you know what, I don't really know anything, I'm useless, I'm not very intelligent, blah, blah, blah. If those are habits, you're going to take this profound realization that you had, and you're going to just wipe it out, and you're going to eliminate it by those habits. So even if you have a profound shift in an instant, you still need to update the habits to accommodate that shift and to entrench it and to make it something that stays with you and that's ongoing and lasting. That's very important. Yes?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I can really relate. I mean, moreness is a great thing, wanting to know more, wanting to give more, wanting more from your life. It's a great thing. Exactly. I had to learn exactly what you were talking about, is that I was burning out because I was trying to give all the time. Exactly. And, I was looking after myself enough, but one of the biggest things I was doing wrong was trying to offer support and advice to people that weren't supporting themselves, for example, that weren't trying to do things. And it was, I spent most of my life doing it, wondering why I was not getting anywhere. And, used to self-medicate a lot and all those things. So great to see everyone here. Just going to say thank you all for coming. Really, what a full show. It's going to be amazing this week. So I have the honor to talk today with Syl Sabastian. And Syl is the owner and creator of Nobelia.org, which is an online university which talks about, which covers many of the topics that we're going to cover today, and specifically to do with changing your life and life coaching. Is that right? Or
yes. Well, yeah. Nobelia is about self-discovery, which is, yes, that's just life coaching, but it's not specifically shares just things in general, not necessarily life coaching. Tend to be one-on-one more. So
yeah, of course, it doesn't necessarily mean change. It can just mean acceptance, I suppose. Exactly. Self-discovery, and
discovery and exploration. So, that's part of life coaching, but still, you can just discover things and you're not necessarily being life coached, just obtaining moreness in your life. And on that concept of moreness, for me, it's not just a concept, it's a philosophy, really. Because I think of it this way. What inhibits us usually from learning and growing? And I'm going to condense this very, very much, but if you kind of really bring it down, fear of the unknown. Right? We're scared to venture, we're scared to explore, we're afraid of what we might encounter. So we tend to stay where we're at. But if I said to you, hey, Matt, you know what, I've become a billionaire, whatever reason, and okay, I built this fantastic spaceship and we discovered how to go into, the vast unknown, and we're going to go and explore this vast unknown. And would you like to come with? Exactly what you're doing there now. You go like this. So, well, so unknown, I don't know what's out there. So I have no idea, it could be anything. It's scary. It's like, that's a bit risky. Oh, yeah. Okay. Well, yeah, maybe not so much for me. I say, hey, Matt, you know what? I got this fantastic spaceship and we're going to go out into the vast moreness out there. You want to come and explore the moreness with me? What are you going to say? Hell yeah, sign me up.
Yeah, right? Of course. Yeah, of course I am.
It's the same thing. It's the same thing. But we are so geared towards that negative association with the unknown that it inhibits us and makes us cautious and a bit scared and afraid. And if we have worrying habits, But the moment I say moreness, man, I'm activating your excitement, your adventure, a little bit of greed maybe too, but that's okay. I want that greed for moreness, right? But it's amazing how a simple shift of a conception can be completely, profoundly transformative. Just that shifting of the conception, which brings me to a big point of this moreness. When we start looking at the moreness of everything, we say, oh, wow, just that shift of conception. Can I do this with other things? What's the moreness involved? And the moreness is our brains are like computers. It's all about the tagging. Yes. So if I tag something as unknown, it gets lumped into scary. If I tag as moreness, it's exciting, fun, wonderful gifts, all sorts of bonus and benefits. Tagging is really critical. And when we see this in a life change concept, when we look at all the way we tag things, in other words, how we associate what we do, what we are, and that those associations. This is really profound. This is huge. You just change the tag, and suddenly you've shifted in a very simple way. So this is where, in Way of Impeccability, each participant creates their own dictionary of power, because in that dictionary of power, changing deliberately is their dictionary of power. Like if you did this, and I really am keen for you to do it, by the way, Matthew, is to have your own dictionary, Matthew's dictionary of power, right? Matthew,
Okay.
full and official, not Matt, but Matthew, right? Very important.
Yep. Okay.
In that, you'll add in these profound concepts. You put in their moreness, and then you define what moreness means to you. Now, of course, there's going to be some overlap, but it's how you relate to it, and you are thereby changing the tagging and the associations that go with it. And it's a profound thing. It's really, really profound. Like trust, for instance. Almost every participant trust becomes capital T trust, because when we say capital T trust, it implies obviously that taking the usual concept and we adding more to it, we're extending it, we're going into depth in it. And so capital T trust is a very profound entry, and the associations, the connections with trust get radically transformed. And it's major how this changes the average person. Well, not the average person, the participant, all of them, every single one has profoundly shifted their connection to trust. Really cool.
Yeah, well, there's a massive relationship, I think, personally, between fear of the unknown and self-trust. Exactly. Because if you don't have if you don't trust yourself, then you don't know if you can go and do this new thing. And so, it goes alongside, like you say, the tagging. And I love that term as well, the way we tag our experiences and our beliefs on what can happen if we do something different. What is going to happen? What is the outcome going to be? And we use our imagination in a less empowering way, where we predict something bad rather than go and try something good and try something new and go, oh, that was for me, that wasn't for me, and we hold ourselves back. So Bina's got a question there. She says, what is moreness for you?
Say that again. Who said that?
Bina asked,
Bina.
Yeah, what is moreness for you?
Were you asking me or Matt, Bina? I'm assuming she's asking me.
I'm assuming, yeah, it does say you, so it could be both of us.
Exactly. I'm just teasing Bina a little bit. Bina's just magic, so we like to. Moreness, as I was saying, to me, it represents that which brings added value and usefulness into my life, and also joy. And you can say under joy comes play, comes adventure, comes excitement, comes profoundness, comes sublimeness. Yes, these are all part of moreness to me. And if you look at also moreness, if you extend it just our usual ideals of behavior, we look to be good people, right? All right, okay. So what's the moreness of that? Well, how do I go a little bit further than good? Well, if I add bonus goodness to my regular goodness, what is that? That's nobility. Yes, that's being noble. Not nobility to do with heredity, because that's just a whole mess. But true being noble, nobleness, isn't that bonus goodness? Well, that's part of moreness for me. Part of my moreness would be awareness, right? Discernment, understanding. Those are all taking what we are as a default, how we just kind of be, and we can say, well, I'm sort of aware, I'm aware of the weather and whatever. But can I go more than that? What's the moreness of awareness? right? The moreness of awareness would be something like capital H hearing. Oh, wow, capital H hearing. Well, I can hear what's not being said. Holy moly, I never thought to listen to what's not being said. I can hear the implications. Yes, I can hear connections. I can hear connectivity. I can hear history. I can hear extrapolations, what's going forward. There's a lot of things to hear. So this is the moreness of ordinary things. You take it and you extend, you go further, you go beyond, past, inside out, backwards. This is it. This is moreness. Lots of moreness. Everything has moreness to it. We just got to make that little bit of effort to step outside the boundaries of what we know.
Yeah, absolutely. And what you've just said there at the end is she's actually said is both of us. So she wants to know what moreness is from both of us. And so moreness to me, I mean, I have not thought about it as much as you, I have to admit, but moreness to me is the acceptance that there is always more, so always knowing that there is more than we can understand, and
exactly.
wanting to search for that more, being fulfilled and inspired by understanding more every day and every minute, every second, to be honest, and just consistently looking to learn more, to gain more, to have more, and Bina's replied, for me, moreness is everything beyond my conventional ideas and perspectives. Yeah, I like that. Yeah, because my ideas used to be fairly conventional because I'd accepted a lot of what I've been told as true for most of my life. And I was always had this question in the back of my mind. And then as I got into my teens, I was like, no, there's a lot more than this. And started this journey, which has brought me all the way here. And, I definitely looked for more before, but I looked for more in the wrong places. I was looking in the educational books and from my family and from people who were always telling me the same stories over and over again.
Yes. To me, it conjures up abundance. Yes, absolutely, Anna Louisa, absolutely, abundance. Now, it's abundance of concept, abundance in a sense of energy, abundance in a sense of awareness, not necessarily abundance materially. And I'm assuming you mean that, right? This is very profound, yes. So abundance, capital A abundance, rather than the usual meaning of abundance in that material. For me, abundance of awareness, this is my first choice. Because if you have abundance of material, you don't necessarily have abundance of awareness. But if you have abundance of awareness, which together with that would go things like strategy, thoughtfulness, energy management, mood management, all of that goes under having an abundance of awareness, moreness of awareness. And from that, if you have those tools at your disposal, well, then to get your material things, usually not all that much of a problem. But, if you can have material abundance, you don't necessarily have an abundance of joy or an abundance of moreness in the bigger sense, right? Emotionally, spiritually, psychologically, you don't necessarily have that abundance there. So I'm always careful to do this. And this actually started for me way back in the 80s, very specifically, this thought. When Bill Gates first became, the wealthiest guy out there, he was like a poster child. I don't know if you remember that or not, but he was such a big thing in the 80s as this, super wealthy guy who got wealthy overnight, right? And he was always being talked about in terms of instant success and all this. So I looked at this and I thought, do I want to be Bill Gates? And then I went around and asked people. I always did these tests and studies. I said, would you like to be Bill Gates? Oh, hell yes. Sign me up. I said, yeah, but without the money. No, thanks.
Yeah.
Everyone said, because, well, back then, he was a little nerd jerk, I mean, he didn't get a very positive image to the public. It turned out all right, I think. But, back then, people thought of him as this little nerd jerk, right? He didn't have a popular, positive image. So when I said, without the money, no, I don't want to be Bill Gates. I said, well, there you go. This really, I said, to me, I don't wish to be in that, because this was in the early 80s, or mid 80s. I'm just starting, in terms of my own business career. I ended school in 1980. So I said, this to me is a very profound insight, to understand that you want to go for your learning first and get your material second. Otherwise, you end up in a problem like Bill Gates. and he may become entrenched in that nonsense. Now, he did succeed, I feel, in actually growing as a person, but it took a long time. I don't know if you
Yeah.
followed his career very much. It took him a long while before he started to kind of
Well,
get it, right?
yeah.
It's like Steve Jobs. He never
I
did
was
it.
going to, yeah.
He died knowing that he didn't get it.
Well, it was funny actually because I watched the Steve Jobs movie the other day. So I stopped off and I watched two films, and it's rare that I do that back to back. But the second one was the Steve Jobs film, and what I found really interesting was he didn't really get success until he started to look at it himself. Yeah, until he actually got more into spirituality, yoga, self-development, accepted his flaws, realized he was being an a-hole to his family, and his daughter. That's when his life changed. And I think, like you say, it's such a good point that really what you need is awareness. Yeah, because
okay. What you need is awareness. Sorry, I jumped in there. But
that's right.
the awareness is the key. Awareness is the key. It's absolutely the key. Otherwise, you end up, in these situations where you may be successful in one thing, but you lose it in everything else, and you pay a terrible price. Steve Jobs never quite got to where he wanted to go. If you look at his deathbed, what he said on his deathbed, I have it as a story. It's called The Fable of Steve, and it's connected to a lot of stuff. But he was basically saying, if I do this again, I wouldn't do it the same way. I missed the boat, essentially, he said very clearly. And he was lamenting and regretting much in his life. Right? Missed it.
Yeah.
So, a very profound thing. What's interesting with Steve, too, is that he started on the spiritual path and then got away from it. So it helped him to be successful, but then his success pulled him away from that spirituality and deeper understanding. And he lost complete connection with it. Before he started and got into the business, he was in India and he was in ashram and everything like this. He was really into this stuff, right?
Right.
And back to California and got all involved in stuff. That all went out the window.
Yeah, I find that interesting because, we talk about the spiritual stuff. There's one thing being really interested in it and generating information and like learning about it. Sorry, generating information, learning about it. But there's another thing actually doing the work. And
Exactly.
And that's what I don't see him having done based on what I know of him. Is although he had these spiritual experiences, he had many shadows. For example, he didn't have a father when he grew up, and so when his daughter was born, he denied the fact that she was his kid. And the stats in the film is that he went in Time magazine, and in Time magazine, he said that there was a 28% chance that 6 million men could have been the father of his daughter.
Wow.
Yeah, so not saying a very nice, exactly. Yeah, that's what she was really angry about that. And in Time magazine as well. Yeah, statistically based on an algorithm. Statistically based on an algorithm, there's a 28% chance that it could be 6 million other men. So that's I know, hilarious. Yeah, and it's like, so he obviously hadn't done the work even if he was into spirituality. So John, and the thing we were talking about is abundance. Is there are many stories of people who focus on the wrong kinds of abundance, and for example, financial, material abundance, and they lose all the other things that they could have an abundance of, which are much more substantial in a lot of ways. Material things are not substantial. They are, whereas emotional things are quite substantial. They're life-changing, an emotional journey from my experience.
So makes that point there. Awareness is half. Doing, all capital, doing something about it is the other. Yes, absolutely. If there's a mantra for way of impeccability, so we'll know exactly where I'm going with this, and so will be now, right? Without application, it's all meaningless. And this we see time and time again. People go, they read the books, they go do the course, they go to the ashram, whatever. Oh, I got it. I know what it's all about, but there's no application. And because there's no application, it's all out the window. And I make this very distinct point, the difference between memory learning and actual learning. Actual learning means you can do it and you can prove to yourself that you can do it. Memory learning means just sitting on your hard drive. It's like when you download an update. Have you updated your computer when you download the update? No, but a lot of people think they have, right? They're not aware that you need to install that update. You need to run that update. It needs to integrate and do all this stuff. It needs to be applied. Without that application of the update, it's just sitting on your hard drive doing nothing. But a lot of people have this. They download the information into their memory and think they've been updated. Sorry, no, it doesn't work that way. It's a big, big problem in the whole life coaching industry and just in the general self-improvement industry.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think for me, this is something that I've been really looking at, because I've been looking in spirituality in quite some depth, talking to some amazing people like yourself. And one of the things that came up, not from one of these conversations, was the misconception of the law of karma, because it's actually the law of action. Yeah.
Yes.
It's not karma. It's not what goes around comes around. It's you have to take action for things to actually happen, you know? And so, yeah, it's one thing reading a book. Yeah. It's another thing continuously practicing things until you've perfected them and ingrained them on your memory that you can never forget them. And, you know, we talked just before, I was saying about music is one of those things where I lose time. I've recently picked up my bass guitar and my guitar, and I still remember things from being 15, 16 years old, you know, and it's like, because I did them so many times.
Exactly. It's entrenched. Exactly.
Yeah. And the less I think about them, the better I am at playing them. It's very interesting.
There you go.
Yeah.
So for me, this is now when we say application, what is it that we need to really deal with if we want to learn habits? Because yes, you've got those guitar habits, but what about the habits of saying, for instance, the I am habits, right? Very profound, bad habit that many people, I'm such a worry pot. I'm so lazy. I'm whatever. You know, they say, I am. What happens when you say, I am? You are an honest person, right? Sure, Jennifer, Aqua, Anna Louisa, Bina, John, all of you, right? Matt, you regard yourself as an honest person. You make every effort to be honest. Huh? So when you say, I'm so lazy, because you're an honest person, I call them the inner bureaucrats. Your inner bureaucrats, which run your inner bureaucracy there, they're going to try and make that statement true. Why? Because otherwise you're a liar and a phony. And you don't want to be a liar and a phony, right? So you've got to, so subconsciously you're trying to make that actually true. And you're fighting yourself, in other words, because you don't really want to be that. You're saying it for nonsense, BS reasons. This, so lazy. It's an indulgence usually of some kind or whatever, right? So the motivation and the actuality are a little bit apart. But this fact that we try to make the statements that we say true and relate to them in truthfully is very critical when it comes to the I am. Conversely, people say, well, you know what, I'm going to stand in my mirror and say, I am successful, I'm handsome, I'm wonderful, I'm a genius, and nothing happens. Yeah, but didn't you just say the things that you say you're going to try and make them true? Yes, but they also have to be true in the first place. If I go and stand in the mirror and say, wow, you know, I'm this whatever wonderful genius, all this, and you know, your inner bureaucrats are just saying bullshit, 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 bullshit. They don't buy it, right? So nothing happens, and it becomes counterproductive because you're just saying lies, right? Now you feel like a liar because you're saying lies. There is a way to combine the two. It's a very big deal. This part of way of impeccability. Incremental change. Utilize this, understand how it works. All right, let's take anger. And I got an anger problem and I want to do it. Now I'm using anger because I've actually done this with people and it's very successful, very profound. We have anger problems. Instead of saying, well, they got the affirmations, I'm not angry anymore, I don't have anger, nothing happened, didn't work. But I said, okay, are you doing something right now? Are you doing something about your anger? Yes. Okay. So now the fact that you've done something about your anger, are you a little less angry than you were yesterday or before? Yes. Okay. Well, that's true. So you can say, I'm less angry than I was before. This is completely true. Your inner bureaucrats, like all bureaucrats, it just has to be technically true. And tomorrow you say the same thing. Now, your focus, the emphasis, which again trains the brain, as I've mentioned before in other conversations, right? Emphasis literally wires your brain. You emphasizing progress. You emphasizing change. You're emphasizing the fact that you have changed. It doesn't matter that it's a little bit. You have changed. If you have changed, means you can change, right? By implication. You have changed, you can change. If you can change, you will change. So if you do this every day, you are now emphasizing the application, the doing, which is I am doing something, I'm working on my anger, and you reinforcing the results of your efforts, which is that little bit of change. Doesn't matter that's a little bit. Little by little leads to leaps and bounds. And so this starts to feed on itself. and you get the spiral starting to go. And after a while, you say, wow, you know what? Yes, I really am a lot less angry. Now it's a lot less angry than I was. I'm really able to manage it, and I don't lose my temper, and so on and so forth. You're starting to emphasize actual change, not theoretical or possible change. And this is really profound. And this is how you can move. And before long, you're going to say, well, you know what? I'm not angry anymore. And then you can have that positive reinforcement. Now you can say, I don't have an anger problem anymore. Right? You acknowledge it. Really, really.
Yeah, I mean, really powerful. The comments going a bit crazy. I'll catch up with them in a second. So I think, like you were talking about the lazy thing, I think this is kind of like a fear of failure thing. We were talking earlier about, but it's a fear of failure. It's like, okay, if I say I'm lazy, then nobody's going to ask me to do anything, and I'm not going to expect myself to do anything. And so, because if I do it, I might not do it as well as somebody else did. And it's a lot of it is to do with fear.
Yeah,
definitely.
The underlying logic, the Moreness there is, if I make an effort, a sincere effort, and I fail, then I prove that I'm a failure. If I make no effort, or if I half-heartedly try and I mess around and I fail, well, I never gave it my best shot, I've got an excuse, I've got a back door. I'm not going to prove that I'm a failure. Now, the whole logic and messed upness is in this idea of, I'm a failure. There's no such thing as I'm a failure as far as I'm concerned. It just means that you've learned. You're only a failure if you didn't learn from not succeeding. So failure to me, I threw that word out of my vocabulary, said, nope, I'm sorry, there's no such thing. To me, it's just alternative learning. And I don't mean to sound clever here. I really mean that. If I do something and it doesn't work, I learn. That's it. And I do it again, I learn. And here's the key. If you make your efforts impeccably, I have discovered, not just for me, but with others as well, that those so-called failures or mistakes or screw-ups or, end of the world, they inevitably turn out to be fortuitous mistakes. Something profound happens. Like, ask people, they say, well, you know what, I screwed up at my work and I got canned. I say, well, what happened then? So, well, I looked around and I didn't want to go back into that. And the next thing I knew, I was in this fantastic new job that I never would have gotten into if I hadn't been fired. Why was I fired? Because I made that mistake. Oh, so now it turns out that your mistake was put you on a whole new life path. Oh, yeah. Oh, I never thought of it that way. It was a fortuitous mistake. It happens all the time. But the key was they were impeccable in the first place. If somebody says, look, I did everything right, but it just didn't work out. It was like this incredible coincidences and stuff. It's just bad luck. And they're being sincere. They're not using it as an excuse. We're impeccable. Things work out. That's what I'm trying to say.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think, like you were saying, that when somebody gets fired, it's down to that tagging again, how they tag the experience. Is being fired a bad thing or a good thing? It's always two sides of the coin. So there's quite a few comments here. So John's asked, how can we encourage people to open to this kind of growth, to changing their way?
Fantastic question, John. That is a fantastic question. I would like to hear from the other participants, because this is a question that I struggle with. One way is, well, I come on Matthew's show. I have Matthew ask me questions and discuss stuff. That's one way. Exposure, in other words, right? And for me, it's also sharing, to share what you're doing rather than telling. So this is a profound difference, right? I have a profoundly huge, big course that is a life coaching program, right? How to be a life coach. But it's a very particular how to be a life coach program. It's how to be a life coach without having wisdom or content. How can I do that? Because by implication, you're assuming that if you're a life coach, you've got some content or wisdom. You don't have to have, right? But anyway, that's a longer story. You just have to learn how to listen, to hear. It's all about hearing, that hearing moreness. But also, one of the key precepts in that program is to share, not tell. Because the moment we start telling people, what happens? You can get a bit of resistance, right? Because if you tell me something, then I have, and I accept it. I'm taking your idea and putting it into me. If I use this, I'm now living your life rather than living my life. And this doesn't last very long. We want to have our things to be our own. So one of the keys to actual, real, lasting learning is to make it your own. And then you're going to go one step further. The moreness behind that is to, once you've made it your own, you go and test it, apply it, implement it, and then you prove to yourself that it's yours. You can ask Syl about self-proof. Syl is in a very profound situation where she is getting daily opportunity to self-prove her impeccability to herself, to self-prove her new way of being, a way of being that, you know, in her, when she grew up, never had an idea that this was even possible, right, Syl? So this is really huge. And so one way to answer John's question is to constantly be sharing, because when we share, we open others up to connect to what we are sharing on their terms, not on yours. Because when you tell, they have to basically trust you and accept what you're doing. Of course, if you've got celebrity and status and all this, people just buy whatever you're selling, and it's terrible. I mean, you know,
It is terrible.
Know how people get waylaid by false gurus and all of this crap, right?
Yeah.
And it's short term. Yes, you know, you can bullshit people for a short term, but longer term doesn't work. So if you want to be real, share. And that's what we do now. We share.
That's the reason I started the show, actually, because not enough people get the information they need without seeing a high ticket price of like $3,000 to $10,000. It's ridiculous, and it's, you know, it is common sense, and we really do need to understand that the moreness of life and how we are impeccable as we are, and you know, and it's a choice to be positive or negative, to move forward or to stay still. So, I mean, my answer to your question, John, is to focus more on the outcomes and use stories that display the outcomes that can be achieved, real life stories, rather than the problem as much. Because if you focus on the problem, you'll always attract people who are stuck in the problem. You focus on the outcome, you'll attract people who are looking for the outcome. Exactly. You know, so that's the main way I would say to encourage more people to open up to this kind of growth. And the more people you attract, the more stories of success you have, the more you'll attract, open the experience up to people who are still umming and ahhing, as we say.
So, you know, to say, oh, self-improvement or growth, yeah, those are growth ideas, but what do they actually get you? You know, somebody came on as an interview, and Bina happened to be with me on Zoom at the time. It was wonderful. So as having already done Way of Impeccability, so the new person said to Bina, well, Bina, what did you get out of it? And Bina said, peace of being. Oh, that's what I want. And they signed up. Right?
Yeah.
So you did bring up a good way, though, of making it more accessible. Because yes, it's a 4-month program. If you're going to do it one-on-one, obviously it's going to be expensive, right? Because it involves Zoom twice a week, you know, 4 hours, a lot of stuff involved. But I've been thinking about this for a long time, but we're talking, you know, I mentioned to you about the Substack, which I've now signed up and signed for, which is, for those of you who don't know, look it up. You know, probably, I think Matthew will probably put my link there. And this is a platform where those with content can share, and they can get people to subscribe to their content. And I was thinking of making a private group on Facebook that's a subscription group for those really interested, so that I can do Way of Impeccability to a larger number. And, you know, yes, you're not going to get the one-on-one, but you're also going to get, on the other hand, you're going to get collaboration. And collaboration, when people are collaborating together on a project, true collaboration, not competition, collaboration. And not cooperation, but collaboration. You get 1 + 1 + 1 equals more. And this is what's happening. Yeah, right. In comments, we're collaborating, we're feeding off of each other's comments, and we're responding and back and forth. And so we all add this together, and we get the moreness that's beyond what we could get on our own. And this is what I am looking for in you know, I'm starting this subscription. I just started now recently on Substack. And so this is very cool that what you said, Matt, it allows us to bring this and make it more accessible to everyone, where income is not an issue. I don't like this. Yes, you know, if I do one-on-one, I'm forced to charge a lot because, well, I'm going to make a living, and there's no other way around it. But through the subscription and doing it in that group way, you can bring it to everybody. I don't like the idea of real learning and change and growth and profoundness being inhibited and limited by income. This just doesn't seem right.
No, absolutely. And like you say, I mean, it's actually creating the opposite in a lot of ways, because people are having worse experiences. And so then even more hesitant to experience change and transformation, positive change and transformation, because of course you can change in negative ways as well. So there's
making a comment here.
Yeah.
He says, so far sharing is the only best way, but I've also experienced that we need to be appropriately cueing of the profoundness of this concept. Otherwise, people usually assume that they know everything. This is a very deep and profound comment, and that cueing, maybe using the voice there or something, but cueing with a C, not cueing in a line, right? As in, cue like an actor gets cued and they get their cue to come on stage. And in this cueing that Bean is referring to, we talk about this often. It's a very profound mechanism. If I come along and I'm like sort of uncertain and I say, well, you know what, this think about this, what I'm saying, it may be interesting. I'm cueing you that I'm not very confident about what I'm saying, that I don't really believe in what I'm saying. So of course you're gonna like, oh, okay, I'm not gonna pay much attention to it. But if my cueing is that I really, really feel what I'm saying is profound and valuable and sensible, wow, now it's a big deal. Now you're going to listen a bit more. Doesn't mean you are going to necessarily accept it, at least I hope not. But if you cue that sharing is profound, not just sharing where I'm just throwing it out there, like I'm distributing seeds or something, no, but I'm sharing and I'm cueing that the sharing is a profound thing. It makes a difference. So yeah, it's a very, very big point that you made.
Yeah, and I think again, this what you're saying there, it makes me think of one of the biggest problems people have trying to get out there and change lives is worrying about what people want to hear.
Exactly.
Yeah? And that's where they end up not cueing well, not being profound, because they're too busy trying to find the right answer instead of using the answer they know deep inside their heart and their soul and being passionate about what they want to do. And I think one of the things that we were talking earlier about the I am statements and all of these things, is one of the things I think holds people back is the acceptance of who they are right now, and the fact that they, there's nothing wrong with anything they've done, as long, like you said, as long as they try and learn from it. How do I make that happen again, or not allow that to happen again?
Exactly.
Exactly.
Yes.
Yeah, it's
you
really
get me all excited. Get me all excited.
Good. I like excitement. I'm excited as well. This is an amazing conversation.
So
thank you all for
what you
watching.
just said there, John. It is the cueing, like Abina said, the cueing that sharing is profound. In that cueing, there's a cueing that it's not about competition. I'm sharing what is valuable to me. I'm sharing what is moreness to me. I'm not saying you must find it moreness. I'm not saying it is valuable and moreness. I'm saying it is so to me or for. And this is in that life coaching program I have, those two words, for me, gets repeated over and over again to get into this habit of always saying for me, because that automatically makes it a sharing, right? And there's a lot behind that. But when we get into this mode of sharing, you can share whatever you like. It can be the biggest load of crap. And you say, but you know what? This works for me. Okay. Well, all right, thank you, Matt, but it doesn't work for me. I think somewhere in one of the comments, somebody they made an assertion. They were telling, say, drugs never work. And then somebody, I think John was the commenter, said, well, he had an opinion on it. And the person, well, first they said, well, I lost all respect for you, and then they apologized. But still, the point is, this is a very profound point, that definitiveness, that desire to be affirmative and to tell, it locks you into boxes. That may be your experience, that you've gotten absolutely nothing out of it. And other people may, but I also know that people have gotten something out of it. And I know other people who got absolutely nothing out of it. It was a very negative experience. So you go across the board. But when you're sharing, you say, well, for me, it was great. For me, it was crap. It's for me. You can't say anything about that. You can just, yes, wow, that's very interesting. And then when you really get into that and when you have profound, deep sharings, like Sher's a great one. And if you watch her post, she's always sharing about what's going on inside her journey of growth. It's like, wow, I'm getting an insight into you. You're giving me a look inside somebody else's psychology. And this is very, very precious. We seldom get that, right? We see from the outside. But when somebody truly shares what's passionate to them, what's important to them, what's meaningful to them, what's really made a difference to them, I now get realness, which otherwise I don't have. If you try and tell me what's good for me, I switch off, because how the hell do you know? Sorry.
Yeah, absolutely. I think this goes back to authenticity, which we were talking about in our show the other week. And I think it's the most important thing when showing up is to be authentic, to do everything you can to talk from your heart space, to share from your heart space. And again, like, there's a couple of things when I help people promote themselves on social media and establish their business. And one of the things I always share is don't teach or preach. Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah,
exactly.
they're my two things, which is telling.
Exactly.
Yeah, teaching and preaching.
Teaching and preaching, they egregious telling. Especially preaching.
Yeah.
Well, I get a hard time because, yes, I run life change programs.
Mm-hmm.
Well, you teach me. Please don't call me a teacher. I don't know. There's a negative connotation to me, and I understand we can teach things, but we have to be very careful about this term, because teaching is so associated with telling. So I stay away from it. I assist, I facilitate, yes, but teaching, no. Now, if I'm going to teach you how to change a tire, okay, that I can teach you, because this is demonstration, and it's essentially copying, but that's a different kind of teaching. But we think of teaching as telling, because that's what our teachers did at school. They told us, and how much of that stuck?
Right?
Absolutely,
yeah.
It's a negative way. But I think the reason we are inherently averse to being told is because deep down we understand that if I buy what you're telling or selling, as it usually is, right? If I buy what you're telling, then I am taking you into me. And if I complete like some guru or teacher or whatever coach, and I buy everything that they're telling me to do, I'm going to end up living their life, not mine. So it completely eliminates authenticity when you buy what you're being told. And this is why we resist it. We want to be authentic and real. The only way you're going to do that is to make it your own. Now, that doesn't mean that I can't take what you said, right? You share something, you say, wow. And I said, that's really awesome. And in that awesomeness, I may even use your exact words, but I make it my own. Now, it doesn't belong to you anymore. It belongs to me as well, right? It's my truth because I've made it my own. And this is a very, very, very profound mechanism for growth. Huge deal. Make it your own. Make it your own. If you don't make it your own, nothing's going to happen. You're going to be false all your life. You're going to be living somebody else's life. It doesn't work. We reject it after a while. We can't live somebody else's life. It doesn't work.
Yeah, and I think it's such a valuable point, that, because it's even something that's come to me, and it's something I've only become aware of myself in the last few weeks, being honest. I'm an honest guy. Is that a lot of it's not about change. A lot of it is about acceptance. A lot of it is about rediscovering who you are, and removing the bits of you changed. Yeah, because those things are stuff that you've gone, okay, that person's told me I should do it that way. It's telling again. That person said, here they're doing it that way. They're happy. That must be what I need to do. And, it doesn't help, does it? I mean, it really is about accepting who you were. And a lot of that is to do with who you were as a child, the things you did before you had to be more accepted in your teens and stuff. Exactly. And going backwards. And I think, while we're talking about this sharing thing, the last point I'd like to make is that you've got to tell your truths, because get them out there for you and for everybody else, because you can't help others if you're hiding things. You can't say to people, accept yourself and this, if you're not getting out there with the truth and accepting yourself,
So I have a question for you. You said, I'm an honest guy. I say, all right, Matthew, I hear you. I agree. I think you're an honest guy. I have no reason not to think so. However, my question for you, Matthew, is, are you self-honest?
Yes.
To me, that's more important. I've known profoundly honest people that I would trust with everything, but I knew for a fact they weren't self-honest. Because, it's a big story. And not that they were being disingenuous. They just struggled to be self-honest because they were so conformist that being self-honest meant they had to go against the society. And part of their credo was being obedient and all of this, right? So you couldn't go against anything. So you couldn't have opinions yourself, which completely, your own independent thoughts. You couldn't have those. Those just went against everything, right? It's a very religious society, obviously. So in this, they struggled for that self-honesty because, internally, well, I feel this way, and I feel they couldn't express that, and it really messed them up. They lived this inadvertent hypocrisy, and from that, I learned a lot. These were genuine people. They weren't bullshitters or anything. They were real, very genuine people, right? But they struggled with this because they had beliefs that prevented them from being self-honest, even though they were honest to a fault. But the self-honesty is very, very good. Life sometimes doesn't, we can't always be honest in life. Like, for instance, the murderer comes into us, where's your children? Yeah, I'm honest, I'm going to tell you. Like, seriously? So we can't always be honest, but we can always be self.
Yeah, and I think even it's a great topic. Self-honesty is only something I really became 100% honest with myself in 2020. So we're only talking 3 years ago. As I was learning about habit building and these things, and I realized I was telling myself a lot of stories. Can't do this because of that. I did my best today because of this, and to do that, and actually I wasn't. And that was a turning point in my life. Really was when I realized that and suddenly said to myself, no, this is the truth. The feeling I got was something I couldn't go back from. The feeling I got from that moment of realizing, hold on, I'm not being honest with myself. I'm going to be honest with myself now. And I think it goes in layers. I mean, this moment was like an epiphany moment, but I think over the years, because and a lot of it again is a feeling against doing acceptance. We don't feel acceptable, not just because you're talking about religion, but also because of families, because of society, because of our peers when we're growing up against the. And sorry? And
should. That evil word. To me, the worst curse word is should. Sorry, this is the worst, most horriblest word out there. Should.
Yes.
Because it gets us to behave contrary to ourselves, but it's manipulating and subverting our goodness. Should. Ramsey makes a good point, to say sharing based on conviction and living the information. In other words, your self-honesty and your sharing has to be based on that inner authenticity. That's what makes it so valuable. That's why it's capital S, sharing. You're not sharing what people want to hear. No, you're sharing what's worked for you, what you've implemented, what you've applied, not what you believe. I don't care to who's what you believe. It means nothing to me. I want to hear you share about what you've been doing, how you've been living, what you've been testing, experimenting. Share your failures, share your success. Doesn't matter. That's what you've been doing. This I learned from. What you believe, I don't learn anything from what you believe. That doesn't mean anything to me, right? Because it may or may not have value, but may or may not have value to me. But when you share what worked for you, that's very valuable, right? This is very valuable. Very, very valuable.
I think
private. Get that private access.
Yeah, and again, I think this is something, we're talking about this sharing thing. It's so important how you share what worked for you as well. I've pulled away from a lot of the spiritual community because they get on my wall and I'm just asking questions and having fun, and they can't start telling me I'm wrong. Yeah, I'm wrong, and I'm like, surely that's your experience or your belief right now or your interpretation. I'm right for me right now. If I'm honest, I'm right for me right now. Maybe my experience will change.
Exactly. It's huge. It's huge. It's huge. Abina, I love your comment there. Very profound. On this point that you said there about your sharing, in that if we take our sharing and we say my sharing is me, it's what worked for me, but we are saying it in a way that is not hierarchical. It's not comparative. This is key. So John, once more, to answer your question, how can we promote this? In very profound, and this is why I enjoy your Zooms and what you do, and all these things that you're doing, Matt, because it's not competitive. what we have sometimes in any industry is people competing, and in the self-improvement industry or coaching or whatever, when people are saying, well, I'm more spiritual than you, I'm sorry, the moment you have this, you don't understand the meaning of spirituality. There's no such thing as more spiritual than somebody else. It's a personal decision. It's not comparative. You can't say a tree is more tree than another tree.
Yeah, we're
How
all
do you say that? Oh, that tree is more tree than the next tree. Hello, what the hell are you talking about? There's no such thing. Same thing with spirituality. It's complete bunk. When you share, it's you sharing yourself, right? And I like trees as this. I think trees are profound spiritual artists. Their treeness is them sharing what they are, right? It's a visual representation of themselves. So when you share your moreness, you share your authenticity, you share your struggles, etc. It's real. It's not competitive. That's it. There's no competition here. And this is profound, right? For me, it's like a competition, like a hierarchy. Because then you also get, I know more than you, I'm more aware than you. No. Whenever you get into that, forget it. You've lost before you start. There's no competition.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I personally have never been a very competitive person. I've always been like, I do it for myself kind of person,
There you go.
to be the winner. And when I was younger, I was a bit more inwards, but the main reason is that I see more power in cooperation and collaboration.
Exactly.
And that goes back to where we started, abundance. Yeah. Because this is, there is an abundance of people out there. There's always going to be enough. There's an abundance of resources coming from this planet. This planet created life. It will support us. The only thing that is actually creating scarcity is the scarcity mindset. Is people being greedy, saying there's not enough for other people. I need to take because otherwise I might not have enough.
But also competition limits you to what you're competing against. And I call it shit pile logic. Right? Sorry, Rena, but it's in my book on this. What is shit pile logic? Right? It's competitiveness taken to its ridiculous extreme. And so you get this guy say, hey, I'm king of the shit pile. Excuse me, dude, but you're living in a shit pile. Yeah, but I'm king. I'm king of but you're living in a shit pile. Yeah, but I'm king. You don't get it. They're so obsessed with hierarchy and being relatively better, and they lose sight of the environment that they're in. And so you live in a shit pile, but no, I'm king. Hello. I don't get it. It's fascinating. So this can really consume and corrupt. And to bring this other point about collaboration, everybody said you see these pictures on the memes all the time about being the big lion and all this. Sorry, I don't want to be a lion. Go and look at how lions live. It's hierarchy. It's pecking order. When they kill something, they fight over the carcass, right? And if you're at the bottom of the pecking order, sometimes you get nothing, right? You go hungry. What a ridiculous system. Now, if you really want to be a predator, be the African dog. They're not very handsome. They're not very wild. They're not a big man, but they're the most successful hunters in Africa. Little dogs, right? Because they collaborate. They go off. They leave some in charge as babysitters. They will share food. Lions, they don't share food. Wild dogs, they hunt, bring it back. Right? So everybody gets enough. If there's not enough, they go hunt again. The lions, like, man, I'm the chief lion there. I get my fill, the lion's share, literally. That's where it comes from. And to hell with the rest of you, right? So never mind. Now I'm full. I'm not going to hunt for another one, but they could easily do this. Kill 2, 3, and everybody gets more than enough to eat. No collaboration, no cooperation. So this hierarchy mindset, it is anti-civilization, really. You look at what civilization is and what makes for civilization. It's collaboration.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think, I think going backwards, we're taking a lion mindset is one of those things that is, is not consciously creating. It's not evolving. It's not developing. It's choosing to try and call yourself king of the jungle. We are moving into a world where we have the ability to cooperate and collaborate and cooperate with life as well in a way that we've not known before. And there's an interesting comment. So Ramsey made another comment earlier, but he just made a comment here. Something that he enjoys is I discovered that sharing is not a thing to do with everyone. I select who to share or not to share knowledge with. I believe sharing should be selective, as a lot of do not understand what sharing and reciprocity. Reciprocity. Yeah, sorry, my English isn't very good sometimes.
It didn't spell it right. So
right. I was thinking reciprocating, but I was like, hold on.
it is that. Yeah.
Well, I mean, I think one of the things is, and this is what I said earlier, I think before you joined Ramsey's, one of the lessons I had to learn was that you know, if we try and share with people who aren't actually looking for that information, then it will fall on deaf ears. However, something I've learned recently. Go on. Yeah. Yeah.
Oh no. I was just that's me saying, you know, yes, I agree with you, but
brilliant. Okay, yeah. I thought you were going to say something. The other thing on that is that we're always planting seeds, and that's why I've started this show. Yeah, it's because the conscious and the subconscious are two separate beasts, or the unconscious and the conscious. They won't be forever, by the way, because we're slowly joining them together. But but as we have so much unconscious stuff, we are able to plant seeds in the mind of people. And then another thing that came my way is that things don't have to come back from the people we give them to.
Correct.
Yeah, so if somebody gives you something, you don't have to repay it. You should pass it on.
Exactly. Sharing is free. That's why I like sharing. For me, sharing is a philosophy like Moreness. I require nothing in my sharing. It's there. You do with it whatever you like. The value lies in the sharing, not what I get out of it, not what I get back from it. In the sharing itself. This is a profound mechanism. I get to express. I get to open. I get to connect. I get to hear myself. Profound activity.
That's
get to hear
priceless. Yeah,
exactly. So sharing is a magical thing, and when we have, you know, sharing that is not looking to get something from somebody else. I share, you share, and my share stimulates your share, and then back again. Now you start getting that collaboration of things building together, and suddenly you get this moreness that you built together through your sharing. It's an incredible thing. It's really, really special and incredible.
Yeah, and I think, you know, you've just said something that I was thinking as well, which was that we shouldn't just share to get something back ever. In fact, and this is where a lot of people go wrong with promoting themselves and sharing and inspiring others, is they hold stuff back for the fear that those people will make it work by themselves. Yeah. Well, most of them won't, you know. Most of them know, or those that are trying to change know that they're going to need some support, know that they're going to need to hear themselves, to be heard, to have their questions answered. They're not going to make it work. You should just give it all away, because, you know, most people will not put it into action. And the ones that do, you've had a positive impact, and that will come back to you in another way.
Exactly. Sharing to me is like sunshine, right? It falls everywhere and gets used by, you know, everything grows from the sunshine. So it's how you choose to use the sunshine or not, right? It's up to you. So when you think of it that way, I don't think the sun really cares. You know, the sun just shares that sunshine, and that goodness is there to be utilized or abused. I mean, you can get burnt with sunshine or shriveled up or dried out or whatever. It's up to you how you use it, right? You have some choice in how you use sharing. And that's the magic of sharing, is that we maintain choice. And to me, this is profound. Why? Because choice equals awareness. The same thing. So the more we share, the more we enable choice. The more we enable choice, the more we enable awareness. All loops together. You said promote there. So on that note there, Bina reminding me to say, hey, I must mention that I have some books that I've written too. It's not just that I'm, you know, and I was talking about hierarchy, and this is part of one of the books it's a big factor. You know, it's all about hierarchy, the superiority paradigm, you know, BS, all of that stuff that goes. We want to unhook from that culture, which is a competitive culture, to get into a collaborative culture, which is a sharing culture. So yeah, so I've basically written. I got a whole bunch more books coming. I got tons of them, but I will write about that too.
Excellent. Yeah. Well, if you are watching the live on Facebook, then I have put Syl's Substack in the comments, so you can subscribe there. And if you're on YouTube or anywhere else where you've found this at a later date, no doubt you'll be able to find a link to Syl's books underneath.
Sure. I mean, and I've in that Substack there, or a lot of posts that are connected to that, excerpts. There's even posts on some of the books. So yeah, you'll find it all.
Okay. Excellent. And so there was a comment earlier about it's not always fear of failure, it's sometimes fear of success. Now, I've been looking at that, and I want because I want to know if they're the same thing, but we're just looking at them from a different angle.
Yes.
Because
exactly.
Yeah, I think fear of success is fear of failure. It's not that you're afraid to have everything working out for you and, to be looked at. And it's the fear that you're going to be judged when you get there.
Exactly.
It's the same thing. Yeah, you agree. So that's just.
Yeah. Well, I have a little bit of a twist on being judged. To me, this whole fear of judgment, it's just ego. It's just insecurity. If you live your life according to you, especially impeccably. Now, when you live impeccably, it doesn't mean you're always right. Not in the long shot. There's no. Some people think impeccable is or no. You can always be wrong and be impeccable. Impeccability in this concept, the core definition of impeccability is best use of energy. Well, if you're being thorough, conscientious, disciplined, scrupulous, right? This is the best use of your energy, because if you don't really do that stuff, well, then you end up making decisions based on poor information and falseness, all this, right? So when you really make those efforts to be thorough and disciplined and scrupulous and conscientious, and you really get to a point of decision making, say, I've done everything that I can do. I may be wrong, but my conscience is at ease. If it turns out that the whole world blows up because of my decision, well, so what? Not too bad. I did everything I could. Can't be helped. I'm not going to feel bad about it. I won't like it, but I'm not going to feel guilty about it, right? So this is very important to understand this in terms of impeccability and your conscience and best use of energy. So when we look at things in this context, there's no failure, because everything you do, and you get to a point where you won't regret it if it turns out bad. How cool is that? Right? So this changes everything in how we connect, how we go. Very profound.
Yeah, I mean, I'm on the same page as you, actually, surprisingly. So basically, people who are if anyone ever judges us, they are judging themselves, really. Yeah.
Exactly. Oh, that's the point. Sorry, I lost my point a bit there on judgment.
Yeah.
Yes. So in that context, right, when it comes to being judged, well, really what you're afraid of is that you don't want your indulgence, which is the opposite of impeccability, to be exposed. Yeah. So, well, I've been crappy and I know it, but please don't point it out.
It's that self-honesty again.
When you don't want to be judged. If you're impeccable, you're going to say, oh, judgment. Oh, hell yes, I love judgment. Judgment is a profound skill which I seek to cultivate every moment of the day. For instance, if I don't judge your behavior from a criminal point of view, how are we going to have law? I have to. So I have to make judgment is it's having the ability to discern whether something is worthwhile or not. It's to make distinctions. It's to be discriminating in a positive sense. Discrimination is a very positive word. It's used negatively, but the quality of discrimination is to finally distinguish. See, it's not a negative thing. It's when discrimination is bad, when you finally distinguish based on bogus criteria. All right, well, now it's rubbish, yes, but the fact it's a positive quality. But my point that I want to say about judgment is that if you're really making an effort to do your part, to be impeccable, make that appropriate effort, your conscience is clear. You're going to say, bring on your judgments. For me, I welcome it, please. Anybody out there, I'm telling you now, you're more than welcome to judge me. I welcome it. Because if you do bring a judgment on me, which is a discernment, a discrimination, an assessment, whatever, and it's valid, then I'm going to say, thank you very much. I've learned something. You're going to be bringing something to my awareness that I wasn't aware of before. This is super precious, right? Because I love learning. I want to grow. I'm not going to take it as a negative. Well, I didn't know. I was being a jackass. This is not new. I've discovered how much a jackass I am. This is the story of my life, right? This is what my learning is all about, because I'm acutely aware of my nincompoopery. I have to bring that word in.
Nincompoop. Yeah, I love it. Yeah, that's
I've always been acutely aware of my nincompoopry. This is how I got to learn and grow and discover how to learn and how to grow. This is a magic thing. It's a magic thing. So please, judge me and I will learn. I'll thank you for it. Don't tell me I'm right, because you tell me I'm right, I'm like, okay, thank you. I knew I was right, so I'm like, oh, what did I gain? Nothing. But tell me I'm wrong. Oh, you realize that, right? Of course,
Yeah.
you're going to have to substantiate that, and I'm going to make you work for proving me wrong. I'm not going to just take your word for it, right? Substantiate. Because when I think I'm right, I'm not thinking I'm right simply because I think so. That's arrogance, and I refuse to be arrogant. I think I'm right because I've really, really, really thought about this, tested it, experimented it, perspective shifted on it, thought it through to the end, etc., etc. So I'm not getting to say what I'm saying just casually. Hell no. So please bring on those judgments and tell me I'm wrong, but prove it.
Yeah, absolutely. I agree with you 100%. And also, I love to see other people's opinions and perspectives so that I can analyze them and understand more. Yes.
Exactly. Because, every now and then somebody comes with something and says, "Ooh, I never thought of it that way." And I add to myself. Doesn't mean I'm going to do it, but I never thought of it that way. It's an extra perspective. The more perspectives we have, the greater our chances and opportunities to see the greater whole. Right? It's a very profound thing. We're always looking at the moreness just from these different angles, and one angle is not nearly enough to be able to grasp moreness. Okay.
Yeah, so we've got quite a few comments here. So Karen's asked, what about when people just tell you you're wrong?
Well, then you go into the motivation. Why are you telling me I'm wrong? Not sharing with me why you feel and think I'm wrong. If you're telling me I'm wrong, it's the superiority. You're trying to be better than me. You're trying to put me down so that you can look better by comparison. Now, I want to stress this very important point. If you make an effort to be more within yourself, right, to get your act together, or common part, to get your shit together, the more you get your shit together, the more you are going to intimidate some people. Because by the very fact that you're not trying to be arrogant or egotistical or show off or anything, but the fact that they can see, oh, you know what, this guy's got this, or this woman's got their shit together. Oh, they now, by contrast, because they caught up in comparative mindset, I call it. By comparison, I don't have my shit together. So now you are making me look bad. I didn't do anything to you. You're doing it to yourself. But of course, they don't want to acknowledge this. So this is why sometimes when you say moreness, you share moreness, people will resent you for it, try and pull you down. And this happens particularly in your family and friend circle. They've known you all your life. You've been nincompoop Joe, right? That's it. Or nincompoop Matthew. All right, there you go. Right? But now you start to get your stuff together. But by contrast, they all saying, well, they all got excuses why they don't get their shit together. And they excuse always this and all these reasons. If you who come from the same circumstance as them do get it together, all the excuses are just bullshit, bogus nonsense, right? So of course, now you're exposing them. You're not doing this consciously or deliberately or trying to even. It happens automatically. And so be aware that your moreness makes others feel less sometimes. And it's got nothing to do with you. They do it to themselves because they're constantly comparing. They're constantly looking at hierarchy. And in their mind, they were always above you. And now suddenly you're above them. And they can't stand this. So they're going to pull you down so that they are relatively better than you. Right? So again, they're not looking for actual goodness. They just want relative betterness. Shit pile logic, in other words. So be aware that, people will look to pull you down sometimes. And that's just them, and this is, oh, you are wrong. That's what they're doing. They're looking to dent you, to subvert your self-confidence and all of this nonsense. They say, oh, based on what? That's my favorite question. Oh, okay, I agree. Yes, absolutely. I'm wrong about tons of stuff. But based on what exactly? Which precise thing am I wrong about? And why? Then you get nowhere, right? I mean, nothing comes from it. Whatever. You get that kind of nonsense. So just realize, that sometimes people are just stuck where they're at. And this is where I feel that we need to have compassion and awareness. And, this is why Capital Diplomacy is a very profound program that I have. It's a very big deal. And these are skills of consideration. I mean, capital C, consideration, a deep, deep consideration. Capital D, diplomacy, is you are making a profound effort to accommodate crappiness without condoning it or entrenching it, but to give people a way out of their crappiness. It's an incredible skill, but it takes a huge amount of it. It's an art. But anyway, so just to be aware that, yeah, people will try and pull you down to make this along and short of, yeah.
Brilliant. Thank you for that. Yeah. And yeah, I mean, there's been some great comments. Everybody's loving the show. Thanks to everyone that's been here.
Yes.
Do you want to keep going, or are you okay for
I'll
time?
go till I'll go forever. Absolutely. I'd never put a time limit on these things. Never.
So one of the things
to share, there's more.
We haven't really talked about is deliberate living.
Way of Impeccability, subtitle: A Toolbox for Deliberate Living. I'm glad you asked this question, right? This is what it's all about. Now, think of the difference between just regular living, like you do, you're being blown around by the winds of life, or you're living deliberately. The moment I do something deliberately, I'm doing it because I choose to do it. Me. Not you, not the wind, not life, not others. Me. Not society, not should. Me. Now, the reason that I do choose to do it is because it is meaningful to me, or purposeful, or significant. Yes, MPS, meaning, purpose, significance, also known as magic per second, also known as Moreness per second. MPS, very profound, right? I love mnemonics. It's a very cool mnemonic. So deliberate living is about that magic per second, that Moreness per second, that meaning, purpose, and significance. If you can deliberately learn to live deliberately, you are always going to be doing things because there's some kind of meaning for it. Look at what we are doing now, Matthew and I. Right, Matthew, this has lots of meaning to you. Yes. And
yes.
You're also being purposeful, correct? Yeah. And it's significant. You add those three together and look what we're getting. We're getting magic per second. We're getting Moreness per second, yes?
Yes, love it. Yeah, so, absolutely.
Yeah. So deliberate living is to live with intent. Note well, I said deliberately. Again, this is part of my deliberate. I said living with intent, as opposed to what you normally hear, living intentionally. Right? There's a very big difference to me between intent and intentional. I've got good intentions. Yeah, so what? So what?
Yeah.
Good intentions are like I got good wishes. They mean absolutely bugger all, right? Why? Because there's no action to it. There's no commitment to do it. And intent, on the other hand, if I have an intent and I set an intent, if I say I intend to do it, by implication, the meaning of the word, not I'm looking to do it, I'm going to do it, I want to do it, I intend. Intend means you've already committed to doing it. Yes? And that is a huge difference. And of course, when you go a little bit deeper, intent is one of those words in the dictionary of power. It's a capital I, intent. For me, it's a huge concept, it's a philosophy. When you truly set an intent, you're not only committing yourself and your energies, but you also engage the universe. So this is the magic of intent. It is a collaboration with the universe. Your energy, your commitment, your discipline, holding that intent, the focus of the intent, maintaining it in awareness, right? And being clear about what you want. If you have a vague, fuzzy intent, you're going to get a lot of side effects that you don't necessarily want, right? So this is very key with an intent to be very clear. So you've done your homework, though. Your intent is thus very meaningful, purposeful, and significant. It's deliberate, and intent is a deliberation of doing, and it's a commitment of doing, right? When you have an intent, you keep on doing it. You keep on doing it until it happens, right? Whatever you're doing, even if it's just holding that intent, right? This is a doing, holding your intent. Sometimes they're actions, but this is a profound big deal, and this is all about deliberate. Deliberate living is taking complete charge of every aspect of my life, says Bina, and Bina might be. This is. I can't say it any better, Bina. Precisely. For me, deliberate living is me being in charge, nobody else. And let me ask you a question to illustrate the deliberate living, Matthew, and everybody listening. But I'm going to ask it of Matthew, but everybody listening, answer along with Matthew. Right now, in this moment, right here, Matthew, do you know that weird shit, unfair shit, unjust shit, any kind of shit could happen in the future?
Yes.
You're aware that this could happen?
Yeah, I'm aware. Yeah, of course. Yeah.
Okay. So you know that shit could happen in the future. Okay. Knowing that shit could happen in the future, Do you, Matthew, in this moment right now, knowing, having this understanding, this awareness that shit could happen in the future, do you, Matthew, choose to continue living, knowing shit could happen?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
Absolutely.
With more intent, to be honest.
Exactly. But now, to get to the end of this, right? So now you've chosen to continue living, knowing that shit could happen. Now you deliberately are saying, I'm deliberately going to be living because I've chosen it. I have accepted full capital R responsibility for my life, which makes my living deliberate. Yes?
Mm-hmm.
I'm not here because, well, I just happen to be here, and I'm like, I've chosen regardless. Of course, the consequence of this is you realize, Matthew, you just screwed yourself because you can never, ever complain again.
I try my best not to anyway.
Right. I'm just saying though, but I'm using you as everybody right now.
Yeah. That's
if you complain, then like I hope your wife is listening to this and you bitching him. So well, wait a second, Matthew. You remember that interview you did with Syl, that show you did with Syl, and you said I accept, I could choose to continue living, knowing shit could happen. Well, shit is happening right now. You chose to continue living. It's your responsibility. Stop complaining. You chose it. Yeah. So you can't complain. It's deliberate living. When you live deliberately, you're living because you want to. And this is why I asked this question. See, right there, when you said, I know shit could happen, but I choose to live in it, that's deliberate. Yes? It changes everything. When we accept full responsibility for living and continuing to live and choosing to live, we end up living deliberately because I'm living because I want to. I choose to. This is deliberate. Yes? It's profound. It's profound. It is a life changer, and it enhances everything. Just look at people around you who are deliberate. Like when they have a passion, right? They're very deliberate. They energized, they're motivated, they're passionate. Changes everything. So deliberate living is a huge deal. And of course, if you're living deliberately, you automatically enhancing your awareness. You're enhancing your strategicness. You're enhancing your connectivity, your appropriateness, everything. Right? You are not just being blown around. Yeah? Very profound.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I think it's a big thing. It's like one of the books that I was quite inspired by was the 7 Habits of Highly Effective People.
Yeah.
And in there he talks about proactiveness to avoid reactiveness, and it's actually always being ahead of all the things in your life. So it's very much like you're saying here, deliberate living. And so how do you talked about intentions being one thing and intent. What happens when intentions and intent aren't lining up? Then
you've got bullshit in the work somewhere.
Yeah, because this is one of the things I see a lot of is intentions not lining up with intent.
Exactly. Right, exactly. Because intentions are really another word for wishful thinking.
Oh, I like that.
You really boil it down and you look at it more closely, that's what intentions are. Like, oh, I've got good intentions. Well, it's wishful thinking. And it makes me look good to say I've got good intentions. But, in the old, some things in the Bible are quite valuable. Like the road to hell is paved with good intentions.
Yeah.
Why? Because you're not acting on them, right? You're just saying that I want this, I want it, but you're not doing anything. Intent, though, is a commitment. It is a doing. Yeah. You are locking yourself into this behavior. Intentions, the game is open. I can say all this, makes me look very nice. What a wonderful guy, all these good intentions. Oh, nice, thank you. Now, it's all just pandering to image, idea, status, feeling good, laziness, whatever you call it. So, yeah, it doesn't get you anywhere. Sounds good, but it doesn't mean anything. It's hollow. Insubstantial. And when you go around being insubstantial like that, the result is, of course, the plague of most of humanity, which is insecurity, in my opinion. Yeah? So if you look around, most people are really insecure. Why? Because they don't mean anything. They're not living deliberately. They have all these wonderful intentions, but they don't act on any of them. So they know underneath that I'm a bit of a pony. Yes? So I ask you, all of you out there, right? Take what your intentions, if you've been using this word, which of those have you actually been implementing? Typically, see, that's what's going to be the result. Not many, right?
Yeah.
If you were implementing it, it wouldn't be an intention. It would be an intent.
I think what you just said there is something that I find really crucial that's been part of my journey, is that It's not just that other people are going to know you're a phony. It's that you know you're a phony. Yeah, that you yourself. It's not that other people. Yeah, it's not that other people think that you're a phony. Yeah, it's the big deal. The big deal is that you know you're a phony. Yeah,
exactly. It's got to be real to you. What other people say, we like this idea that it matters and it's a big deal. And yes, I guess sometimes it might be, but like you say, the bottom line is it matters to you. If you feel like a phony, you're not going anywhere. Of course, we have to be very, very cautious about having false confidence and overestimate, like narcissists. They don't feel like they're phonies. They really start to believe their own bullshit, right? And this is a disastrous disease. So this is where impeccability comes in, because you're always checking, you're being thorough, you're being scrupulous, you're being diligent. You make sure that it's not based on bullshit. You do the work, you do the homework. Back it up. Yeah. It's very important. So Norma says an interesting comment there. Determined intentions. I'm assuming that by implication is an intent. Yes, in a sense, yes. You can start with intentions, absolutely, but know what they are. They might, essentially they could be like speculations or ideas, things that I wish to do. But at some point, I need to convert my intentions through deliberate and determination, deliberation and determination, both, and perseverance and patience, everything, all your good qualities, to transform your intentions into intent. But if you get stuck only intentions, you're not going anywhere, right? So yeah, maybe a starting point, like ideas on the drawing board, a company with ideas. Hey, we're going to pick one or whatever. Some of these we've got to implement it. And that implementation is deliberately.
Yeah, well, I think I love what you said there, because I think that's one of the things that hasn't been touched on here, but one of the key things from moving from good intentions to action is imagination.
Exactly.
And so, like you said, they're getting on the drawing board, thinking it through, having ideas and moving forward with it. Yeah, really very, very crucial. Yeah. Oh, I've lost you. I can't hear you. Oh, you're on mute for some reason. It's suddenly muted. I can't unmute you. Oh, there you go.
I have no idea how that happened. Sometimes you accidentally touch the space bar and it toggles the mute, but I didn't do that.
Yes.
So I don't know. Anyway, this point of I lost my point. That's okay. I'm
talking about imagination.
I'm thinking about your mum. I'm thinking about your mum. I want to ask your mum.
Go on. If she's still watching.
Matthew's mum. When do you say Matthew and when do you say Matt, and why? So tell us a few of the things that apply to Matthew. We want to hear some Matthew stories, not Matt stories, but Matthew.
Brilliant. Yeah, Mum, we'll have you on the show next week.
Okay, that'll be a long show. That'll be a long show. Yes. It is huge that you are.
Yeah, well, I'll be honest, like when you talk about being a nincompoop, my mum was the first person that came to my mind with some of the things I used to do. And then weirdly enough, didn't even know she was here, and she started commenting. That was really good. So thanks for coming on.
That when I said nincompoop or nincompoopery, the first thought was your mum.
No, yeah. Well, the first thought was that's how my mum would think about me, and that's
Okay.
It was a bit of a nincompoop.
Clear up here that you're not calling your mum the nincompoop.
No. And she has replied, "How long have you got? How long have you got?" Sorry,
I missed. Get into trouble. I'm trying to get into trouble.
I'm too old for trouble, I think.
So, talking about moms now and nincompoopery, right? I'll just throw something out just because it's fun. So we'll come back to Amanda Louise. You asked an important question about imposter syndrome, and we'll get back to it in a moment. So, but to moms, just in general, to me, the sort of number one quality of a good mother, and you see this in good nurses as well, particularly like head nurses, is ruthlessness. You say, what? Ruthlessness? Isn't that like a terrible thing? Isn't that being mean and brutal and all? No. Ruthlessness, that's the abuse of ruthlessness, yes. But ruthlessness as a pure term. When you were young, right, and you skinned your knee, what did you do, Mom? All right, you came with that skinned knee, and Mom grabbed your leg. I'm assuming that your mom was a good mother, and she cleaned out all that dirt in the knee, right? And you went and said, "Shut up, I gotta clean this out," right? And she just ignored all your wailing and crying and squirming and trying, and she just cleaned it up very ruthlessly, right? Because she knows I have to clean that dirt out, otherwise you're going to get an infection, right? And she's shutting off, ruthlessly shutting off all your moans and groans and complaints and all that, right? She has to. This is doing what you have to do, regardless of emotionality, squeamishness, uncomfortableness, etc. That is what ruthlessness is. And I call it positive ruthlessness because the word has become abused. But positive ruthlessness, like that, what I just described, number one quality in a good mother. Same with nurses and many other professions. But you see it particularly in those professions. It's easy to recognize. And not well, I call being a mother a profession. So yeah.
I think it pretty much is a profession in the scale of things. It's probably one of the more challenging jobs in the world.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Exactly.
And I think that ruthlessness is something. Yeah, tough love is something that my mum is often shared with me, and I still use till today. And I think this actually relates to what I was about to say: is the misunderstanding of nurture. Nurture is doing what is best for your child, and not necessarily giving them every cake, making sure they're smiling every second. And you've muted again for some reason. I don't know what's going on with you. You're muted. I don't know why it's done it again. I'm not touching anything either.
Yeah, me neither. I have no idea. Okay. Nurture, though. You said doing what's best. I will amend that slightly, because this could lead to the idea of doing something for somebody. Nurture is providing the environment whereby you have all of the means at your disposal to grow, learn, develop, and do what is ideal and best, right? So in other words, if I'm nurturing my plant, I give it the appropriate fertilizer, the right amount of water, the right amount of light, etc. I'm not growing the plant itself, that the plant has to do. So I'm providing the environment. And to me, that's what nurture is, providing the environment. Yes, a nutritious environment.
Yeah, absolutely. Very good. I like
difference.
that. Nurture and nutrition.
Say again?
Nurture, nutrition. I like
Exactly. Yeah. It's inherent in the word, because if you do things for your children, you get them to rely on you being the one that does it, not them. But if you provide the environment for them to do the growing and the learning, that to me is real parenting. That's real coaching. You provide the environment, you provide the tools, you don't do it for them. That's counterproductive. And you sadly see this a lot in the life coaching industry. The people end up relying on the life coach is the one doing it, but no. Help is sometimes wrongly misunderstood, right? Help is like, I'm doing it for you. That's not helping you, no. But if you think of it rather as assistance, like I'm the surgeon and I have another surgeon who's assisting me, right? I'm the one doing it, they're assisting. If they're helping me, well, then we're doing it together, or they may be doing it that I'm assisting them. So this distinction between help has become a bit corrupted, unfortunately. To me, true help should be nurturing. That's real help. Right?
Yeah, absolutely.
Sometimes you've got to, pull somebody out of the pit, and you're doing something. They've fallen in a hole, and you got to pull them out. But this is not really what we want to when it comes to self-growth. You can't be doing it for people.
Yeah, and I think what you just said there about a lot of coaches, and not a lot, but let's just say some coaching programs and coaches, is that they're a bit like Microsoft Windows and all these other companies who they sold you a program, for many years that you could just have on a CD, right? And then suddenly they realized they're not making any money anymore. And so they had to sell you a yearly license. And I think coaching has got a bit the same, is that they want this recurring passive income. And so rather than give you everything you need, they have to hold some power back. Unfortunately, I don't think that it should be that way. There are billions of us on the planet that need support, but yeah.
Yeah, it doesn't mean that you cannot have a long-term relationship, because you can. Because for me, every participant that I engage with, we are learning together. I'm learning. So, of course, we enhance each other's learning because it's a collaboration. So this can go on forever. Absolutely. But it doesn't mean that, you now kind of, milking something. No, it's a different mindset. So it can go on longer. And this is what you have in partnerships, right? Ideally, you're going to be learning and growing together. I want to come back to imposter syndrome. I didn't forget. forget.
No, neither had I.
forget the
Yeah.
person's name.
It's
But
Amanda.
Amanda, what is imposter syndrome for you, man?
Imposter syndrome for me is judgment again. It's judging yourself as not good enough, and fear and doubt and all those things, but mainly coming from already judging yourself before you've tried.
To me, this imposter syndrome is again feeling like a phony, right? You're saying I am more and I'm trying to be more, but I can't be more because I feel like a phony for being more. Well, at some point you just have to accept this is just a reality. If you're going to learn and grow, you're pretty much always going to have that, because if you live in that area beyond what you know and you start moving into that what's just outside of what you know, this is either the unknown or moreness, correct? So if you're in that territory, you haven't quite caught up there yet. It's still a little bit uncertain. So you're always going to be in a territory where, if you are growing and learning, where you're not quite fully comfortable. You just have to make peace with it. That's all. And
yeah,
say, well, if I'm feeling like an imposter now, I'm making every effort to not feel that way and become real. And that's how you grow. So you grow into it. Just make peace with it, which is part of the deal.
How I started this show. I mean, even in 2020, I still had some childhood fear of public speaking and getting in front of people. And I got a coach who was like, the only way you grow your business is courageous, imperfect action. And I started doing live events, which then led me on to like, I want to do more. I don't want to do live events just to find people to work with. I want to give something back through all the awesome people that I've been working with, and that's where this show started.
So at that moment in time, did you think to yourself, maybe I'm maybe putting words in your mouth, you're paraphrasing, but was it part of your thinking to say, I don't know if I can do this, but I'm going to take a chance?
Yeah, absolutely.
There's a remedy and a mechanism for dealing with imposter syndrome. Rather than saying, I'm going to do this, I am this, I'm definitely this, to say, hey, and let your people know too, hey, I'm extending myself, I'm growing, I'm pushing past my boundaries, and I'm taking a bit of a chance. I don't know if it's going to work or not, but I hope so. I think so. I have good reason to think it might work, but I don't think definitively it will work. I'm taking a bit of a chance. And this, in your mind, this connectivity to taking a bit of a chance, this is how it ameliorates and mollifies that imposter feeling. Right? Because you're taking a chance. If you're taking a chance, then you're not an imposter, because you're being honest that it may not necessarily work. And so imposter syndrome is connected to, unfortunately, a habit that we tend to have, which is definitiveness. We want things boxed and defined. So either I am, like in Matthew's case, I'm just, regular guy, whatever. But now suddenly I'm a talk show host, right? It's a definitive thing. And I've moved from one state of being to another. It's like this big jump. Why does it have to be a big jump? I can still be ordinary Matt and just an everyday guy who's taking a chance on hosting a TV show. What's your definitions of how you define yourself? And if you say, well, I'm taking a chance, I'm exploring, I'm going to see how this works out. It's something that is open-ended. It's not locked in. And that imposter is when you're locking into an absolute and you're making a jump from where you were to a new thing and you're trying to cross that void. No, there's never this definitiveness. You grow into it. And yes, you're a talk show host or a podcast host or whatever. To say that, there's a whole range of that. To say, I'm hosting a podcast, I'm a podcast host, that can have a range of meanings. Doesn't mean that you're a good podcast host. That's still open when it comes to Matthew. We don't know.
Yeah, absolutely.
I'm teasing you, Matthew. I'm teasing you.
Yeah. Sorry, I was just thinking about something that came to mind.
I think you're an excellent host. I was talking to Bina about this. I really feel that this is something that, man, you're awesome at this.
Well, I realise that the impact that this show's having, and I do struggle sometimes to be in two places at one time, like commenting but I'm getting better. I'm going to hopefully bring on an assistant to do the commenting, and then they can feed me the questions.
Absolutely.
And then I can be more present. So I just wanted to say about one of the things about imposter syndrome that really struck true with me, and I was really aware about this for other things, is the reason it's happening is because you care about the outcome. Yeah. So the reason you're feeling you can't, it's because you actually care whether you can or you can't. Exactly. And that's actually a really good thing,
Yeah.
It is a really good thing, because you're not just somebody, doesn't matter. I don't care.
Whatever.
I'm not even going to
Exactly.
try. Yeah, whatever.
Exactly.
You actually have got a passion to do it.
Exactly. And if you shift your outcome to learning, then you've got it made, right? So for you, this is very important. Your outcome part of this, okay, you may have some, tangible outcomes, but also one outcome that you would like to see out of this is personal growth, personal development, learning, awareness. Yes, this is part of your outcome for you, right?
Yes.
And
Yeah.
it's open-ended.
Absolutely.
So
Yeah.
no matter what happens to your podcast from a numbers point of view, you've already acquired that outcome, that moreness of learning, growth, awareness. Yeah. And so
Yeah. Well, absolutely. And I
no
mean,
problem,
nowadays,
no risk.
yeah, I mean, nowadays hours of content is invaluable and is going to give years of return for all the people that featured on the show, to be honest. So that's the good thing about YouTube and all these things. Transformation is going to be going on for years. People are going to be bettering themselves for years to come, and more so, I think, in the future. I think it is becoming something that people realize is what's missing from their lives.
Exactly.
And yeah, just there was one thing I want to say. Yeah, what about the imposter syndrome? So the other thing that is that, exactly as you were saying, is if you don't try, you'll never learn.
Exactly.
And so, like, for myself as a coach, I'm constantly looking at how I'm originally a digital marketer, not a coach. Okay, so somebody that then realized that I had a lot of skills that I wanted to share with people that could benefit them. It's like, how do I turn them into an offer? And what if it doesn't work? And what if it's trial and error. That I've done a year of coaching people now, and it's been 50-50. There's some people that can take the information, there's some people that can't. Exactly. There's some people that need less, and there's some people that need more. And it is all, but in fact, I think everybody I've worked with is happy. Even if they haven't got the 100% results, a lot of them know that they could have done a little bit more or tried a little bit harder. But it wasn't for them, and they went and tried to do something else, do it their own way, and it's just one of those things you have to do, is you have to just get out there. It is growth, that it's so empowering to learn more.
So I always like to get to the underlying of things. And the underlying of this is self-conception. It is a profound part of way of impeccability. If we have the self-conception like typically we have, which is a box, it's a definition. I am a this, I'm a this, I'm a talk show host. That's very limited. It's a very boxy self-definition. If you go from not being a podcast host or talk show host to being one, that's kind of it's a quantum leap, going from one state of being to another. There's no real transgression there. So in your mind, though, if you say, I want to be a podcast host, and I start or a talk show host, and I do it, when do I become one? Only after I've done it sufficiently. But how do I do it sufficiently? So this is where imposter syndrome, it's a square circle. It's a bit oxymoronic. However, and yeah, I'll give a shout out to John, right? John Cooper, right? Because John has courses he's focused on. It's part of way of impeccability too. Adventure, right? Adventure is a capital A term. There's a lot of capital A terms, but it's very profound. And John focuses on this because he's lived a whole life of adventure. Me too. But he really focuses on this. If you change your conception, your self-conception, to that of an adventurer, well, what's the problem now? I'm going from being whatever I am, little old me, and I'm going to do a podcast. I'm going to be a scientist, whatever. It's an adventure. I'm not saying I am a podcast. I'm an adventurer, and this is what my adventure is at the moment: is podcasting, talk show hosting. See, now you don't have this problem of a definition that locks you in, and now, well, I haven't met the criteria to say I'm a talk show host because, well, I haven't done any, but I want to. And you get into that oxymoronity square circle logic. But if you say I'm an adventurer, no problem. You can do anything then. And you're never going to feel like an imposter because you're always adventuring, exploring, right? Or whatever your personal self-conception is. Like for Bina, for her, it's to be a power learner. It's a fantastic self-conception, right? To be a life detective, for instance. Lots of them. Lots of powerful, spirit warrior, whatever. In way of impeccability, it's a whole session. We get into this in absolute exquisite detail because it's very important, that nuanced awareness of how you conceive of yourself. And the way to avoid imposter syndrome, change your self-conception. Yeah, rewiring, change that tagging, right? Like I said, if you're an adventurer, how are you going to feel like an imposter? You cannot. I'm adventuring. Whatever I'm doing, I'm exploring. I'm testing. investigating.
Yeah. If
I'm
you're
real
learning as
about
well,
exploring.
if you're learning and you're a power learner, then you can't learn more without the occasional failure or the occasional, you
Exactly.
learn something from it.
Exactly.
It was
Exactly.
good.
There is
It's a
no
growth.
failure
Yeah,
because you learn
try
from the
better.
failure.
Yeah, and I think the adventure is a really interesting topic on this because life should be an adventure. Life is about exploring. Life is about finding out about these new things. We still haven't got to the bottom of the ocean or very far into space yet. There's a lot left to explore, and there's a lot inside of us that we're only really becoming what I call common knowledge these days. Yeah, whereas before it was kind of like, oh, that's only for certain people. And a lot of this knowledge has been around thousands of years. But yeah, it's about exploring. This is where regret kicks in, is when you don't learn to overcome these things.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And regret is the price of unimpeccability.
Nice. Yeah.
It's a huge deal. You want to learn to live without regrets? Learn to be. That's what impeccability is. It gives you the mechanism, the tools to be able to make decisions that are going to be regret-free, regardless of how they turn out. Regardless of how they turn out. What a boon. Exhilarating. Exactly. It's a very good word, Norma. I love exhilaration. Yes. I love superlatives in general. I want to ask Amanda. It was Amanda who asked about the imposter syndrome.
Yes.
Amanda, does this connection of imposter, the understanding, the associations with definitiveness, and through that self-definition, we don't want a self-definition because that boxes us, but rather a self-conception because conceptions are open-ended. And to change your self-conception from being a this or a that to being something open-ended, like a power learner, a life detective, a spirit warrior, an adventurer, an explorer. Those are all open. They can go anywhere. And the moment you conceive of yourself in that way, you can't really be an imposter, right? Because you are being that always. Doesn't matter what you do, right? It's very open. A lot of fluidity and flexibility. So I'm keen to know from Amanda if that really helps.
Okay, we'll wait and see.
I don't know if you're still on or not, Amanda. It's for me personally. Resolution is something that I long time ago said as something truly important to me. So I don't like to leave something unresolved. And in this case, you asked the question, and I made a sincere effort, and so did Matt, to share something that may add to your question. And so, if it did it help any, Amanda? That's what I'm keen to know. I'm keen to get a bit of resolution. If I know it didn't help, then I got to go back to the drawing board, right? But if it did in some way, make a difference, then I can feel a bit resolved. So I'm keen to know, did it make any difference, Amanda?
She's waiting for the response. So I just wanted to say on that note, though, on imposter syndrome, just as like a public advisory, we are mainly talking about trying things other than surgery. Don't pretend to be a doctor, and don't go and drive heavy vehicles without understanding. That's not the same thing. Okay.
Exactly. I mean,
there are things.
Exactly. That is a different kind of imposter syndrome. That's the rampant narcissism, which is a different thing. Impeccability, of course. If you're impeccable, you could never ever do that. So, yeah. I see. Okay, it wasn't personal to you. Yes, thank you, Amanda. All right. So, see, that does give me resolution, because if somebody asks me an earnest question, it can have profound consequences. You can ask Vino or Show or those who know me. Earnestness is a great power. So be aware. I took your question very earnestly, but you brought it up as a topic. So that's why it was so important to me to get some resolution. So brilliant. Yeah, it was a very good topic. Look, it has a lot to it. It brought up all sorts of things. So it was a very good suggestion. Thank you, man. Very awesome.
Thank you, Amanda. No, some really good questions today. We've covered so many things, and I think we've talked about a lot of fears: fear of failure, fear of success, same thing, fear of the unknown, imposter syndrome. And ultimately, the answer to all these things is not impeccable living. It's deliberate living. That's the word I'm looking for. Sorry, I had a complete blank there. And deliberate living. Yeah, actually having an intent to go and live the life that you're dreaming of, that you're entitled to more than anything.
Exactly.
So yeah. And
what you say there, or just to re-say it, if we set the intent to live deliberately, the consequence is almost inevitably impeccable.
Mm.
It's very hard to live deliberately without being impeccable, because how you're not going to be thorough, how you're not going to be scrupulous, conscientious, diligent, how you're not going to make every effort to have your conscience be at peace. This is number one for impeccability. How you're not going to use your energy to best effect. The core definition of impeccability all works together. All works together. So, absolute pleasure, Amanda. Everybody else, I can't see all the names there. You know, Ramsey, Sher, thank you for coming. Norma, thank you for coming. John, thank you for coming. I'm missing some people, but those are the ones.
Karen, Sher, you said Sher, didn't you? Yeah.
Yeah, I said Sher. Karen, that's right. Karen, yes. That's mom.
We'll have a look here. Yeah, that's my mum. Karen is my mum. Yeah. Yeah. So she.
It was really so
fun. So thank you all for coming, and thank you all for your engagement, your comments, and everything. It's been a really awesome show. Thank you, Syl. I've really enjoyed today.
Pleasure. Yeah, it was loads of fun.
Yeah, and so I will be back on Thursday talking about closure in the Conscious Creators community. That's at 5 p.m. London time, and then I will be back next week with Food for Thought. So thank you all for coming.
And a shout out to Magical Bina. You're going to be doing a similar show with Bina coming soon.
Bina's next week, isn't she? Yeah, Bina's next week. Yeah, Bina. So it's
more Moreness.
Yeah, more Moreness. So it's going to be another amazing show. So I hope to see you all there.
And at some point, I assume you're also going to have Sher on. I would recommend.
I am, yeah. So we're going to meet this week or next and arrange a show. So that's going to be in March, I think. Yeah. So looking forward to it.
And then John as well at some point.
John's already been on, but I think
John is already on. I even watched the show.
Yeah. Yes, it was a really good one. The adventure lifestyle.
I have such a deep pressure to be inclusive. I was saying, no, who am I leaving out? Oh, I thought I'm leaving out.
Yeah.
Sorry, but John's already been.
No. John's been. So thank you all, and really thank you so much, Syl. Right. See you later, everybody on Facebook. Thank you.
Pleasure. Bye-bye.